Hi folks, GamerBug here again, and I am going to be doing something a bit different today. Normally, obviously, I'm doing gaming, but for once I wanted to do something that's very nostalgic for me, and something I also have as a hobby, which is to do with Transformers. I was very much into Transformers as a kid. It was one of the most sort of important toys I had for a period of my life. Probably the best toys I had for a period of my life. We're going back to like the 1980s here. And I loved them. It was a short-lived period, and there was a reason why it was short-lived. Other things became interesting to me, such as gaming became interesting to me. And so toys became a bit more of a backseat, but for a few years of my life, these were probably the most important things to me, full stop. So on that, I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff around Transformers and my Transformers collection and why and what I'm doing and so on and so forth. But what I really wanted to do was go and have a real rose-tinted nostalgia look at some of the Transformers from when I was a kid. And for this, first and foremost, what I want to look at, because I have new modern versions of these now, but I want to look at the box art specifically, that thing that you looked at on the side of the box that made you go wow, because the toys never really lived up to the box art, or did they? So that's why I want to do this. So we got a tier list, why not, seems fun, and we're gonna jump in a moment, but basically I've given us 5 tiers. So the first one is badass, that is S-Class, that is great, that looks amazing, this box art does everything I want it to do. Almost there, but it's almost there, but there's just something about it that's not as cool as it could be, but it's pretty damned awesome. They tried it's middle of the road. It's okay, it's fine, but there's nothing that puts me off about it, but it certainly doesn't inspire awe in me. Then there's Uncanny Valley, that thing where, oh my god, what the hell has gone wrong here? Everything about this freaks me out. And then the opposite of badass is ass and bad. In other words, just garbage. Now for this video, we're just going to cover those that came out in 1984. This is when I first got Transformers, in Christmas 1984, and so these are the ones I want to look at. It's a mixture of all the Decepticons and all of the Autobots, so let's jump in and see what we think. First up, we have Blue Streak. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is the first one, and it's pretty damned good. There doesn't look bad. The perspective is okay. Everything about this is kind of cool. I really like this figure. Its eyes are a little bit weird, but good. It wasn't a character that had anything about it for me when I was a kid, but there's a lot to like here. The guns being held well, the look of the rockets, the head. Like I say, the eyes are a bit odd, but nothing bad. Hand sizes, leg sizes, feet sizes. He's probably a little bit squat, but beyond that, this is really, really good. I'm going to be honest, it's not badass, but it's not far off it. So for that reason, with everything being good about this, I'm going to put this in A. In other words, almost there, but I think it's the character that maybe puts it there, and maybe I'll revisit this, and maybe this person goes into badass, but he does look damned cool, and I do like him. And for that reason, for now, we're sitting here in almost there, but he could get a jump up to badass, which is a hell of a start, I think. So let's move on. Next up, we have Brawn. Now, Brawn was one of my favorite characters back in the day. I loved him. Now, I loved the Brawn that, well, I had the comics and I read those and I watched the cartoons and I had the toy. It was one of the toys I had. I did not have Blue Streak. I did have Brawn. And I loved him. He was meant to be super strong and almost like invincible, kind of, and everything about him was cool. And he was small and turned into a Land Rover, and a lot to like about this character. So he has the nostalgia big time for me. But on top of that, he doesn't look great here. Now, this is definitely they tried or uncanny valley. Now, let me tell you what's wrong with this. Apart from the Autobot symbol, which is pretty damned awful, it's very faithful to the toy, and many of these are, but that is their downfall. Being faithful to the toy isn't necessarily a good thing, as honest as it is. Now, he's got that Cylon head, and I prefer this head, by the way. Way prefer this head to the face he has later. That said, it is what it is, and most stuff now he has the face. I'm fine with that. He's got the weird like claw arms that, again, I think are cool. These days he doesn't have them, but that's fine. But it's not terrible, but there's a lot wrong. The claw arms look weird, the shaping of them. The legs are probably the worst offender. I mean, they would have been on the toy, but what the hell is going on there? And the perspective doesn't seem right. The one slightly further back seems to be bigger than the one in the foreground. And those wheels were never going to work, were they? They're meant to be the same size. I love Brawn, and that is going to get this a bit of a better thing. But if I'm honest, he probably belongs in They Tried at best, and I might drop that down to Uncanny Valley. But if it wasn't for the fact he is dead on toy accurate, nothing else offends me. Next up, Bumblebee. Now, I had Bumblebee. I had all the mini Autobots, and I had Bumblebee, and I did not care about Bumblebee whatsoever as a character too much. He is obviously one of the most important characters in the Transformers franchise these days, but back in the day, he was just Bumblebee. And he very quickly, in the cartoon and stuff like that, didn't even have this head. Now, I like this head, the face mask. I don't like it's flat. That's not good. But the head is fine. But this picture, everything is wrong about it, apart from the chest and the head. The arms are weird. Yeah, they're toy accurate, but they're weird. What is going on? How is this person? How does he exist? He should not exist. He shouldn't be. He's weird, and it's not good. And the legs are tiny. Why are they so small? And how is one that supposedly looks like it's bending towards you and then the foot coming down, why is that longer, technically speaking, than the one that's pointing straight down? None of this makes any sense. Unless he's doing a karate kick towards us, like a flying kick. I don't know. I don't like this at all. I wasn't a big fan of the actual Bumblebee figure, as I say, or even the character. But if you were to take away the arms and the legs, and maybe the Autobot symbol, it's alright. That bit's fine, and you could work with that. But everything else, oh, it's worrying. And I'm afraid for that, Bumblebee goes into very much the Uncanny Valley. Okay, next up we have Laserbeak or Buzzsaw. This is Buzzsaw. Yes, sorry, just looking at the colouring to figure out which one I'm looking at. So Buzzsaw was basically, and Laserbeak were palette swaps of one another. There were cassettes, they were both like condors or whatever, and I loved Buzzsaw more than Laserbeak. Laserbeak got all the screen time, Laserbeak was the one, but apparently Buzzsaw's beak could cut through anything, apparently, but he, more importantly, came with Soundwave, which is why this is one of the tapes I actually had. I say one of, it's the only tape I actually had. And thus, I have a place in my heart for Buzzsaw that is not there for any of the other tapes. This picture looks badass. He looks cool. He looks menacing. He looks awesome. I love this picture. The only thing sort of wrong with it are the feet. That's it. That's the only thing wrong with it are the feet. They are wrong. They look weird and they're facing like upwards and stuff, but that is it. For a character I adore and I love Buzzsaw. He is one of my favourites, which to this day, as part of what I would call the The main line, many people call it Chug, we don't have a new Buzzsaw yet, which is weird because he's just a palette swap of Laserbeak, who we've had 2 iterations of. But anyway, I love Buzzsaw. I love this picture. I think it's really good. The guns, the jets, the wings, the head, everything. Badass, yes, but the feet could put it one down. For now, we go into almost their butt, but I will reevaluate some of these at the end and see what we think, just based on what ends up in Badass. Cliff Jumper. Oh my god! This is an affront to everything. This is a sin against science and nature and robots, and it's horrific. What is going on with his face? What is going on with his legs? Again, I'm pointing it out. Why is the front leg, the preceding leg, longer than the one at the back there? Now, don't get me wrong, perspective, sure, you're gonna, but no, perspective doesn't mean, if you straightened his legs out, he's gonna be odd shaped. His hands that are gripping the wheels are weird, and the head that's flat, and he looks like he's constipated, and I hate this. I can't even say this would be fine if it was just the chest piece like I did for Bumblebee, because the head is awful. Now, I must admit, Cliff Jumper, again, not one that I was a big fan of, but in the cartoons and in the comics, I did like him. And this ain't Cliff Jumper. This is the toy. This is the toy. I mean, his legs were longer, but it's awful. It is just, this is the first one. Sorry, Cliff Jumper, this goes into ass and bad. Another Decepticon, another tape. Is it Rumble? Is it Frenzy? Are we getting into that argument? No, I'm not. I'm just not getting into that argument. This is Frenzy. So basically, the reason I say this is that's what it was packaged as. Rumble was packaged as red as a toy, and we're looking at toy box art. So this is Frenzy. And you know what? Holy crap, he looks awesome. Now, I couldn't really tell you a lot about Frenzy from comics or cartoons, because it was always sort of Rumble because of the pile drivers and everything, although technically I think they both had them. But this looks badass. This looks cool. Yeah, he looks like he's wearing flares, but let's give the guy some due. He was made in the 80s, sort of very early 80s, so he probably was. The hand looks good gripping the gun. The gun's a little bit weird and wonky. Yeah, the feet and legs are maybe a bit too big, but not really drawing away from this. The pose is good. The face looks amazing. Everything about this is great. And I like it. I love it. And like I say, I'm not the biggest Frenzy fan because I didn't really know much about him. But this is quite simply cool as heck. And this is the first one that I am definitely putting in to Badass. The pose, the look, everything. So we come to my boy Soundwave. And do I have rose tinted nostalgic spectacles on for this one? Is he as cool as I remember being my favourite Transformer full stop ever? Which I got in Christmas 1984, opened it up, didn't even know what this was, never heard of Transformers before, and fell in love. And is he living up to... Yeah, yes he is. He looks absolutely cool as hell. Look at it. The pose is awesome. The proportions are pretty damned good. None of them are going to be perfect. His fists aren't weirdly oversized. Some people would argue, oh, he should have the red visor or he should have the yellow visor. I don't care. He looks amazing here. He looks cool. Whenever I pose Soundwave, I try to go for this pose as much as I can for that nostalgia. And now seeing it in the flesh, so to speak, properly, yeah, I'm not sad about this. Yeah, he looks as cool as ever. As a matter of fact, he looks cooler here than he does in his most recent, which is the Netflix one that I've got. That's the model I have right now of him. And yeah, I mean, that's better than the toy, yes, but the sort of detail, the decals, all of that sort of thing on here, yeah, he is awesome. I love Soundwave. I always will love Soundwave, and this is brilliant. Is he going in Badass? Oh, you know he's going in Badass. Oh yeah, because Soundwave is the most badass Transformer, full stop. Moving on. So we have the leader of the Decepticons, the almighty Megatron. It's not good to start with, but let me preface this with, he was a shit toy. Right? He looked nothing like the cartoons or the comics, and there's a reason for that, because he was a shit toy. He looked garbage. The comics and the cartoons made him look cool. Obviously, they gave him the Darth Vader helmet-y look, and the sort of, everything about Megatron is cool. I love Megatron; he's brilliant. I mean, he's an idiot sometimes, but he's cool. This ain't it. It was tricky to get hold of this in the UK, but not impossible. I didn't have it. A friend of mine had it. It was one of the loosest, jankiest pieces of crap I've ever come across. The robot looked absolutely shit. And this image of him, yeah, it looks like the robot. It looks awful. It looks absolutely crap. The only thing about this I think looks okay is the legs. He's obviously got the giant penis trigger going on there, which is worrying. His arm, what's going on? Why is his fist so tiny but not sticking out far enough? He almost looks happy and smiley in his face, and then the giant forehead, and the fusion cannon looks fine. The only thing that redeemed this as a figure was the pistol. The pistol mode was actually really cool, but the figure is rubbish, and this is a rubbish picture of a rubbish figure. That said, does it look like the figure? Yes, but it's still awful, and it really fits into, because it is uncanny. So I'm afraid Megatron, you go into Uncanny Valley, mate. Gears, another Transformer that I had, and don't know what to say. I liked Gears the toy. I liked the toy of Gears. He's just had finally had a new toy released in the main line, and it's a really nice toy. I prefer this face. I always prefer the visored look over the mouth look. But the new toy is really nice, by the way. The vehicle mode, not as much, but I may start doing reviews of my Transformer collection. So if I do that, if anyone's interested in that, then I will say what I feel about the new stuff. This, yes, it's toy accurate. The hands are creepy and freaky and weird. The wheels all feel the right sort of size. His Autobot penis symbol is a bit strange. It's his legs that really let this down, but they're not terrible, but they let it down. And again, one leg is facing forward, although slightly in the background, one leg is going backwards, and yet they're the same size, and they're also both too short. Again, it's that one, if you took just the torso, would be fine. The arms aren't as bad as Bumblebee's. The legs are still bad. But I don't mind him. And as a figure I quite liked, and I owned, yeah, I think we can manage to put good old Grumpy Gears here into They Tried. My boy Hound. Another figure that I loved as a kid. I really did like Hound. And owned him, and he was a good figure. He did not very much articulation, but let's face it, none of them did have. I like the character that was introduced in the comics. I like the character that was introduced in the cartoons. This sort of nature-loving, sort of wants to be and enjoys being on Earth kind of thing. So, good character. But the box art, well, it's sort of okay. The head's a little bit spaced out looking. I don't know how they've managed to do that. The gun looks fine, maybe a bit big, but the shoulder cannon, the whole upper torso is fine. His pants really do look like rubber pants, and that's really accented even more by the big fist on the sort of, well, the one not holding the gun, which is also looks really rubber. So he kind of looks like he's got a bit of a rubber thing going on, and then the legs look more like stockings, and it's a little bit weird. The wheels are too small as well. The front foot is bigger than the back foot, so that's okay. The perspective ain't the worst, but he looks very squat but he does look squat. He looks like a dwarf almost, sort of thing, and I mean like fantasy dwarf. But you know, he's all right. He's okay, and he's got that nostalgia for me, which gets him into. I think it gets him into They Tried. You did all right there, Hound, and there's nothing uncanny in this. So yeah, They Tried. I'm happy with that for Hound. Huffer. Huffer was another one I owned, and I do like the modern update of him. So I'm not going into that now. But this is not a good piece of art. It's creepy and weird, and the arms look absolute. I mean, they are what they are. It's kind of what his arms were like. Freaky. Would he be alright if he didn't have the arms and legs? Maybe. The legs are all too short again, but not the worst offender. He's alright. Is he uncanny? No, probably not. Maybe he fits They Tried. It's the arms. The arms really freak me out. They are creepy on this. And the Autobot symbols are way too big. The legs, of course, again, just how is a foreground leg like not big? It's just, I don't like it in that way. But it's not uncanny. It's not creepy, and it's not absolute ass. So for that reason, I think Huffer has to go into They Tried. Ironhide. And a lot of people who've never seen these toys before in their life will be going, you what? Who? And that's because he looks nothing like Ironhide did in anything. The only time Ironhide looked like this, I think in the comics, I might be wrong. I'm now trying to think back to 1985, which is when I first started collecting the comics. And there was like a little poster almost sort of thing that had all the Autobots introducing themselves. And I think maybe he looked like this there, but maybe he didn't. I'd have to try and see if I can find that picture online. Anyway, with this being the toy, this is what the toy did look like. As a matter of fact, I think they've done a better job on this than the toy, which looked ass. And I don't, considering this is based on the toy, I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all. The fist maybe is a bit big, and that weird how they've done the arm with the hooked over fist in the background there is very odd. He did actually have a face, technically speaking, on the little metal plate that you can see just sticking up above the windshield at the back there. That was where his face was actually sat. But it's actually okay. I don't hate this. I don't hate the perspective. I don't think it is uncanny, but that's only because the toy was uncanny. But unlike Megatron, I think this does look cool. Okay, he has a big dong rocket, but other than that, I don't mind it. I don't think it can fit into almost their butt because it's still not cool, but I think it fits fine in fits fine in They Tried. So that's why I'm putting this version of Ironhide is going into They Tried. Jazz. And dare I say, Jazz hands are one of the problems with this. I love Jazz. Didn't have the toy. Knew somebody who did. One of my favourite characters. There is one of the comics, and he's like front and centre in a forest, stood there, and he just looks bad. As in badass. He's just cool. I like Jazz. I've always loved Jazz. I love this look for Jazz with the visor and everything as well. What a cool character he is. Now, this picture has sort of things going right and wrong. The gun and how it's held, and in fact it's sticking up, and it looks like the barrel is curving upwards in this odd fist is kind of crap. The other hand's a bit weird looking. The head's sort of fine, but the chin looks like a Thanos chin. The Porsche front's fine. The cannon on the back's too big, and the legs are too tiny. And again, there's no real perspective going on whatsoever. I don't know if he fits uncanny because he's Jazz and he's cool. I like him, and there's nothing uncanny here. It's how he's holding that gun really throws it off, and he looks like he's doing the Running Man. But other than that, he's fine, and I do love me some Jazz. So yeah, they tried. Laserbeak. Now, Laserbeak is just a palette swap of Buzzsaw, who is a palette swap of Laserbeak. Character got all the attention back in the day, but did not come bundled with Soundwave, so loses points for that. Only in the sense. And I like the idea that Buzzsaw had this like diamond tipped, nose. Kind of thing, beak that could cut through anything. Whereas Laserbeak to me was just Laserbeak. But he was just sort of a spy. I also remember, I think it was these things detaching at some point and flying around on their own in the cartoon, which was weird. But he's just as cool. It's a palette swapped picture. So he has to be as good as Buzzsaw, except I can give Buzzsaw a few extra points for me just preferring him. But there's nothing wrong. He looks cool. So Laserbeak and Buzzsaw both fit together. Almost there. But, like I say, it's only the feet. It's only the feet that I feel ain't right. But we will go back, as I say, at the end and see if we want to upgrade or downgrade anyone. Mirage. Okay. Now, I liked the character of Mirage. I liked the race car thing. I loved his, was he teleporting you could do, or was it creating a clone? I feel it was like both. No, creating the clone, teleporting with Skywalk. I'm just going to go myself out. So basically, you could make like fakes to himself, hence called Mirage. And I like that. And what was the comic? There's one where he's walking quietly through back gardens at night, and it's just creepy, but it looks awesome. This, however, again, he's holding the gun very oddly. How does he fire that? There's no trigger. The rocket launcher feels like it's. I think it's just maybe just Jazzy. Now it is different to Jazzy's, but it's still too big. The wheels are fine. Again, we've got a bent leg that is not much longer than the straight leg isn't much longer than the bent leg, which is wrong. His face, his eyes look weird. He looks like he's got either a goatee, like an Egyptian sort of pharaoh goatee, or a massive chin. He's kind of uncanny because of the face and the way the arm sticks out, but I don't hate it. Maybe I can allow they tried even with the uncanny face. Yeah, you know what? I think Mirage, I think maybe you've just managed to they tried. Yeah. The big bad. And by bad, I mean the badass, the king, the one, Optimus Prime. I owned Optimus Prime as a kid. I was very lucky to get my hands on him, and he was cool to me. The toy itself suffered from a problem where you couldn't stick the gun in his hand, as you see here, because the handle was actually the bit that's just in front of his hand. It looks like a guard, maybe. That was the handle for the gun. The gun itself, the proper handle, was in such a way you couldn't slot it into his hand, so he always had to hold his gun at a weird angle, which kind of sucked. And eventually I remember cutting the handle off the gun so he could hold it properly, which was kind of blasphemy, I guess. Is this a good picture of Optimus though? Because I think I love Optimus as a figure. He's probably my second favourite character. Yeah, it is a good picture. The gun's too small. The head's weird. It's a very good representation of the toy. Obviously, he couldn't bend his legs. The Missing Link version that's now been released, which I have sat on a shelf behind me because I still haven't opened it yet, can apparently do all of these poses and stuff. The fists are a bit big, but they're okay. Again, the kind of perspective on the legs is a bit wrong. But all in all, yeah, yes, it's a good picture. Is it badass? No. But he's definitely almost there, but I don't think it's even better as a picture than Laserbeak and Buzzsaw, so we're putting him here. Prowl. Another character I liked, did not own. I know everyone thinks he's a douche these days, apparently. I don't. Didn't see all that side of him, so I don't care. But this is a weird looking one. I seem to recall this picture being cooler, and then I realised what I thought this picture was the picture of Blue Streak, but in his colours. And if that had been the case, he'd have been cooler. But his eyes look really freaky. His head looks maybe a little bit too human and childlike. The rocket launchers are fine. The hands are massive. That gun is massive. Why is the hand that's open? It should be further back. It shouldn't be that big. The legs are too short and stumpy. I like Prowl, but I don't like this picture. But it's not ass. It's just too uncanny. It's just too weird looking. And unfortunately for Prowl, that means that he belongs in the Uncanny Valley. Ratchet. Again, I can only go this based upon the toy and this picture and how it represents the toy. And like Ironhide, I don't hate this. It's fine. You wouldn't believe that there's a separate robot that comes out of the little trailer, which there is, but I think that's okay too. His rocket launcher is less egregiously penis-like in this picture. Otherwise, it's just sort of a copy, but even the hands look better. And I actually like this a lot. And I think it's, for the fact it's using the toy as its reference, because of not having the weird wonky arm and the rockets and the fists are a bit whatever, I think maybe. I'm not going to put him in almost their butt, but what I'm going to do is I'm putting him above Ironhide, and I'm going to sort these out a little bit, but I think he's definitely top of this pile. There. I'll sort these guys out. These aren't really in a proper order right now, and I will go back and just do some shifting at the end. But we're going to put him in They Tried. Ravage. I did not have this as a kid because I didn't have any of the tapes Barbara saw, but god damn it, I wanted this one. Ravage was one of my favourite characters. This cool, loyal panther. I remember him as part of the Enemy Within comic, which also featured Brawn. And I loved Ravage. I loved him in the cartoon. I loved him in everything. I have the more modern Ravage that is part of the current toy line, and it's ass. It's a rubbish figure. This figure's 20 times better. But we're talking about the artwork. And what's wrong with this artwork? Nothing. Nothing at all. He looks freaking awesome. I love this picture. I love this box art. And the toy was not as good as this because a friend had it, but it wasn't far off being this cool. I love it. I love Ravage to bits. This is brilliant. Yeah, the rocket's a little bit wonky how it's sat on his side. I think I'm splitting hairs there though. Ravage goes into badass. And if I'm honest, he's more badass than the other two just from the picture. It's a picture alone. Rumble. Yes, I'm not getting into that again. I've already told you that. This is Rumble because it's the toy and that's how it was marketed. But my god, how this is not as good as Frenzy by so many reasons. First of all, the giant fist in the foreground. Weird. How he's holding his gun. Yeah, I kind of know Frenzy's holding his gun like that, but this looks wonky and wrong. He's got a little, tiny little hand. It's freaky. And how is his arm attached to his, it's like his forearm attached to his upper arm? I don't know. And the legs are wrong, and I don't like any of this apart from the head and the cassette body. That's okay. The legs are too short. How have they got Frenzy so right and this so wrong? Why is this so wrong? It's just not very good at all. And I'm afraid because of the weird stumpy legs, which they didn't get wrong on Frenzy, and the weird little hand, I'm afraid this guy, I like Rumble as well. I really like the character of Rumble, but this guy goes into Uncanny Valley big time. It's just wrong. Sideswipe, another character I really had it was a Lamborghini. I was going to like it because it was a Lamborghini. But this picture, oh my god. I mean, again, it's pretty right compared to the toy, except he couldn't bend his legs. But yeah, the arms came out like that. I didn't have this toy. I wanted this toy. Friend had it. But the rocket launcher, holy God, what are you compensating for, mate? You are really compensating for something there. Then the blaster doesn't have, again, a trigger. The hands, how stiff the arms look. Massive fists. The big obsession with massive fists in these all these drawings. He looks so sad and poor me. His face looks all wrong. The legs, the one that's bent looks the same length as the one that's not bent. Everything is not good about this. And this is one of the coolest characters, I always thought. But nah. This one is pretty damn bad. It's not absolute ass. It really isn't absolute ass. But it is really uncanny and really weird looking. And it's the face, I think, and the rocket launcher do it the worst, and it's definitely the face. So for that reason, you're in the uncanny valley, mate. Skywarp, one of my favourite Decepticons. I love the idea of him teleporting in that. He was my favourite Seeker. Full stop. I love the purple colour scheme as well. And this is not great. This is not great at all. This does such a bad job of... His face looks like an old grumpy old man. I don't know why they give two different weapons on him, like the rocket and then the blaster kind of thing. The pose is alright. I guess the creeping pose. It's just not great. It's sort of uninspiring and boring. And I liked him so much more than this. And this just doesn't do it for me. I don't know if he can go into uncanny because he's not uncanny. He's just boring. That's the worst thing about this, is it's boring. I don't feel there's any egregious issues apart from his face. And that just looks like an old man, but it's not terrible. He looks kind of evil. So I think it has to go into They Tried, but that's because it isn't uncanny and it's not complete ass. So, yeah. Starscream. Oh my God, this is worse than I ever remembered it being. He looks like a kid having a tantrum. His face looks like an old woman's, though. He looks like Angela Lansbury from Murder, She Wrote. That's not a good face to have. No. Whoa, this is just bad. That face is really, 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 really bad. And the tantrum pose ain't great either. If it wasn't for the head, this might not be so bad. Even the tantrum I can probably get away with, but that face is horrific. It's so creepy looking. It's not ass, but it's not good. It's not good. Sorry, Starscream, you'll probably cry about this and complain to Megatron, but Uncanny Valley, mate. In you go. Sunstreaker. Weirdly, a character I didn't care about. I always found him to be this odd version of the Lamborghini, and I found that strange. And I have the modern version of him, which is fine. And this is actually really good. I like this look of his. He looks very Egyptian again, which I know I said about one of the other characters, of Mirage, but it works here. His arms look a bit odd how they are, especially the sort of weapon arm. It looks wrong where it's attached. But okay, I'll let it off a bit. Again, I don't get how that front leg the sort of bent leg can be the same length as the straight leg. Surely something's going really wrong there. There's a whole perspective freak out. But this is the best face I think I've seen on him that I really like. And considering he was a character I had no real interest in, because like I say, it just felt like a weird version of the Lamborghini that Sideswipe was. He's fine. I like this. And he's going into almost there, but well done, Sunstreaker. You have impressed me. Okay, another one. I liked Thundercracker, and this ain't a great picture again, is it really? There's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. It's just the colours seem too dark, and I don't know if that's me nostalgic. We're talking about the toys here, remember, so nostalgically thinking about it. But it's the face. More than anything, it's the face. The arms look a bit odd and the legs look a bit odd, but nothing drastic. But it's the face is just a bit wrong. But I'd say it's better than Skywarp's picture, and it's way better than Starscream's picture. So I think it goes into they tried. But that's probably the best I can do for it. If it wasn't for that head, maybe it would be higher. I don't know, actually. I think it feels just fundamentally these aren't presented as well, but they're okay. So yeah, I think that goes into they tried, but he does go before Skywarp. Trailbreaker. Now, I owned this figure, and I recall the picture being cooler than it is, but I don't hate this picture at all. The giant fist is weird, and I way prefer the visored look, although the sort of sunglasses on his forehead, it looks like. I know that's meant to be like the little rocket launcher behind his head sort of thing, or whatever you want to call it, but it looks to me like he's wearing a pair of sunglasses on his head. But there's nothing particular. The most egregious thing about this is the giant fist. Everything else about this looks cooler than actual Trailbreaker does, especially Trailbreaker these days. And that's right with the arms and stuff. And yeah, I preferred the visored look. I like this. It really reminds me of the toy. It's a good pose. Yeah, you know what? Does he fit in badass? No, not quite. But he definitely fits into almost their butt. Wheeljack. I don't recall this picture or pose being that cool, but then I remembered Prowl's being a lot cooler than it actually looked. And I can only see a few things wrong with this. The head looks brilliant. I love that whole visor and everything. Look, it looks amazing. The arms are fine. Again, giant fists. But they're okay. The legs, the pose is all fine. Again, proportions are a little bit off, but they are in all of these, generally speaking, a little bit. But nothing egregious, nothing terrible. If anything that makes this a bit weird, it's the dildo rockets. But you know what? I don't even think they're enough to take this away from Wheeljack here. Definitely belongs in badass. Last, we'll decide whether not least is the outcome of this. We have something that's been pushed through a car crusher. Oh no, it's Windcharger. That's right. This is horrific. I loved the character of Windcharger because I had him and he had magnets for magnetism. He was Magneto, basically. And this is horrible. It's a horrible mess of a thing of a whatever. The face looks stupid and wrong, and what's with the goatee, and the arms are creepy and weird, and the legs are all absolutely wrong. And even if I said the centerpiece, take away the arms and the legs, looks cool, it doesn't. He looks like he's got a moustache, which I know is just a shadowing sort of thing, or a reflection in his visor, but he looks like he's got a moustache and a goatee. And what have they done to you, Windcharger? I remember this being cooler than it is. And he also looks like he's going ooh with his fingers. This is awful. This isn't as bad as Cliffjumper, but it's bad. It's very bad. And for a figure I had and loved, I'm sorry, mate, but this is ass and bad. You go there. So there we are. We now have done all of the 1986 Autobots. And yeah, you know what? I think I'm fairly happy with it. There's an argument that maybe I could push a few up. Maybe I'm being a little bit... Let's have a look. Do we move some about? I think if I'm letting Wheeljack in badass, I think Blue Streak has to go in badass. But I also then feel that these two do as well. And if I'm honest, no, I think those two maybe stay where they are. I think Optimus. No, Optimus doesn't. Optimus stays where he is. And I think I move you there. Those I am happy with. Yes, no, those I am happy with. I am happy with those. Although I want to do a bit of moving around, I think that Soundwave is better than that. And you are better than Frenzy. You are the same picture. Otherwise, I think... Yeah, that's fine. I'm good with that. Let's have a look at They Tried. Okay, I think that Jazz deserves to be higher. I don't know. Do I? These guys. I know I'm very much taking nostalgia with Brawn here. But it's a very colourful, very nice picture. I think Gears and Huffer probably should be... I think it's the art style. Let's move you here. You can move here. You're better than Huffer. But worse than Gears? Maybe. You're better than Huffer. I think you're better than him. I think you're better than him. Yeah, probably that. That seems fair to me. Are you better than Huffer? You are better than Huffer. As a matter of fact, these guys don't have any innate flaws apart from a head I don't like. But I don't like it. Yeah, you can go there and you can go there. Okay. No, actually, I find that face more egregious. Uncanny Valley. Who's the... Well, you belong to be higher up. And you do. You do belong where you are. Yeah, sorry, Megatron. I think that's probably a fair order there. And this, yeah, that's better than that. That is easily the worst picture. I'm happy with that. I think that's fine. The most badass box art for 1984's Transformers was Ravage, and the worst was Cliffjumper. And I am fine with that as a thing. Hopefully you found this fun, and I will probably be doing the 1985 Autobots and Decepticons next, and we'll see how we go from there. I also am planning on maybe, like I say, doing some videos where I actually show off my collection and why I have them and what I think about them, maybe some lists on where I feel they all fit, and maybe some little mini reviews from my perspective of these figures, whether I think they're good, whether I think they're bad. I'm only going to be able to base it on my opinions as well. If you think I'm going to be able to do this based upon knowing loads about the Transformers figures as they stand today, it won't be that. But if you want to see more of my Transformers stuff, do let me know in the comments below. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel out. And yes, there will be more video game content coming, but at the moment I'm in a little bit of a funk with video games, so I just need to get myself out of that. I also might be doing a bit more streaming, so if you're interested in that, you can always see me over on twitch.tv/GamerbugUK. Thank you for watching. As always, until next time, GamerbugUK out.